With all due respect.
Okay, recording in progress. What we love to hear. Welcome back, guys. This is With All Due Respect. There's the dog. Welcome you guys in. I don't know if you heard the dog just bark like that. But welcome back, guys. This is Gray Gaines here with Josh Ortegon and one of my very good friends, James Patrick Allen. But I have known James for, I don't know how long, a couple years now, a few years,
Been a few
2020.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
around
yeah.
that time.
Pre or post COVID. That's how I do life.
I
Life
think it
right now
was,
is
Pre-COVID.
pre
It
COVID.
was
yeah.
definitely pre-COVID. Yeah.
I think so, but it's like all those years kind of run together. But I met James because I needed a really good massage therapist in my life. And little did I know that I would be walking into what is now like such a beautiful friendship that I feel like it's just so mutually beneficial. And we run off of each other and give each other energy and run ideas off each other. And it's just such a positive space. So I'm going to let James introduce himself before I ramble on and on about how much I love him.
Hey y'all. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an exercise therapy specialist. I've been a personal trainer for 15 years. I've been a licensed massage therapist since 2008. I have been in local media since Michael Jackson died. um, the most morbid joke I could ever tell. Um, but yeah, I've been affiliated with WOTX, WOLO, and now I'm with WIS as a um, health and wellness commentator and contributor. I am also I'm a writer. I've been an editorial writer since pre-COVID 2019. Um, and came that year for a magazine called Phnm magazine, which is actually based out of Greenville. And yeah, I've also been in radio for 6 years, and so yeah, I these days my platform is mental health, and I love talking about all things equality and all things equitable and all the weird stuff that makes us cringy.
Yes. I probably should have led that conversation with he is a jack of all trades because there are not many people I know that are as dipped into different pools as you are. I feel like every time I turn around, you're doing something different, doing something new. And I think that's why you're such an exciting person. But I want you to kind of tell us a little backstory of how you got into the industry, what led you there, any experiences that you had that you were like, this is what I need to do, this is what I want to do, this is why I want to help people.
Yeah, so I first got into the fitness industry. Um, Actually, it was really early on, about 2006. I was really young, and even before that, I was really immersed into fitness by way of my family. I learned how to lift weights at an early age. I was an overweight kid.
Mm.
I was a size 38, going on 40, when I was 10 years old, and I lost a bunch of weight by stealing my aunt and my sister's Taebo videos. And I swear to God, um, one of these days, Billy Blanks is going to hit me back. But I literally did a video. I did 3 videos, 2 to 3 videos every single day, and I don't know. It was just I just it did something for me really early on, and through watching him, I think I started, even as an adult, to begin to emulate my aesthetic to, because we're sort of we're just a full imprint of the things that we've been taught, right?
Right.
And so, but yeah, I started working out really early on. So I've been introduced to fitness since I was a pup, and yeah, I started. I was one of the first Zumba instructors, um, like male Zumba instructors that ever came to the platform. And when I got into fitness, I was like 18. I needed something else to do because I was scheduled to go to a school called AMDA, American Music and Dramatic Academy. It's in New York, and I couldn't go because my stepdad died 6 weeks after we graduated high school. And so subsequently, that made me like the man of the house. So that kept me in Columbia. And so, in lieu of not being able to go, I think fitness was an outlet for me to be creative and be rambunctious and eccentric in ways that would mirror me being able to have gone to school. So, yeah, I just kind of let myself out on stage, and that was a big hit for people. I would pack out Gold's Gym. It got to the point where they would have to give people like little armbands to go to class because the fire marshal kept coming in to like shut the class down. They're like, there are too many damn people in this place, and it just got crazy. And then I figured out one day like, well, if I can do this in this gym and I'm getting paid, I think I was getting paid like $28 a class or something. And I'm like, if I can do this, then I should be able to do this on my own. So I started renting out a small space. This guy owned a boxing gym on Two Notch Road behind Dunkin' Donuts. And on Fridays, I would have this class called Block Party. And so every freaking Friday, this class would just pack out, pack out, pack out.
How many people?
And
How many people were you running that class?
oh man, there were about 40 to 50 people in that class. That in it, the studio space was only supposed to capacitate like 30, 45 at the most. And I mean, the walls were sweating. People would just so we started getting creative. We started getting creative and we started making like protein shots and it just blew up and it got to the point where I started calling it the fitness concert. And so I started renting out like gymnasiums, and our biggest class to date was 270 people.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
What year was this? How old were you? How old were you and what year was this?
Oh God, I was so young. So I might have been 24.
Okay.
I was almost too young. It was almost going too fast for me to be able to, my younger self to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And so I was given that big platform, and it just blew up so fast. And before I knew it, like I didn't have anybody to sort of steer me, or we didn't have social media or people to kind of show us how to, kind of continue on in that platform. And because it was so new and so fresh, it was almost intimidating, and it was expensive. And so, but yeah, that's one of the most notable things that I've done.
So to touch on something you said earlier that I think is impactful for people is you said you got introduced to fitness early through your family, right? And you said you were an overweight kid at 10. Said you're about 10 years old. Okay. Talk a little bit about the influence your family had on you. You said your sister had the Billy Blanks. I said, like, dude, I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard Billy Blanks. I mean, I almost had like a little mini seizure when you're like Billy Blank. I'm like, oh man, right? Tybo, right? The VHS and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What we talk a lot on here, and we've had multiple conversations with people about the importance of your environment, and that, like, if you grow up in an unhealthy family, your likelihood of being unhealthy is high. You said your family influenced you to be healthy. Explain a little bit about what you saw growing up from a healthy family. What did you see that influenced you? Was it just part of the culture? What was it?
So I have to give you both sides of my perception of what healthy and unhealthy was.
Okay.
In that time frame. What I saw from being around my immediate family in terms of healthy was, working out and movement. In contrast to that, I grew up with an alcoholic. And so, my dad being my stepdad being a full-time alcoholic, showed me even more what unhealthy looked like. And so I distinctly remember looking at him as he was sleeping on the kitchen table in his food. And I just remember thinking, I don't ever, ever, ever want to be that. I don't know how you get there, but I don't ever want to be that. And I embedded that in myself. And those beliefs carried me into adulthood, into my career, throughout my even into my personal life. Because we have a lot of coaches out these days that are not healthy themselves. They don't have a healthy mind frame or healthy
Yeah.
belief system. So
I listened to, I don't know if it was a video or a podcast or something recently, or maybe it was even something that I read in a book, but it had essentially said, a really good way to figure out who you want to be is to figure out who you're not. And I
mhm,
think that's so important because I do think on this search or quest to find out the things that we enjoy and the people that we want to be, we so harshly focus on sometimes like who exactly I want to be and the things that I want to do, but that we forget about the things that we might not want to be or might not want to do. And I think when you can
mhm,
start to narrow those things down and like your experience with your stepdad of being like, I don't want to be that way. I
mhm,
want to be this certain way and I want to live my life, without alcohol or very limited alcohol or whatever it may
mhm,
be. I think that's such an important point to see both sides of I want this and I don't want this.
mhm. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With your with your fitness experience inside of, and I think again, like I'm just literally gonna make this whole podcast about the things that I love about you, but you constantly remind people that fitness is so it has so many sides besides, working out. It's
Mhm,
not just weightlifting. There's so many other sides to fitness. And a big reason, like I talked to Josh about this yesterday. I was like, something that I do love so much about you is that your path of fitness is different because a lot of it comes through stuff like dance, and
mhm,
it's reminding people that fitness is so multidimensional. It has so
mhm.
many sides to it and you can do it in so many ways. Um, which I guess kind of leads us into, and we had a great conversation about this when I was on your table one time crying because you were getting into my forearms, talking about the fitness industry and how it's changed over time. So I wanted to kind of talk about where it started and where it is now and kind of the pros and cons of what you've seen inside of the fitness industry and how it's changed.
So we have the world in our hands.
Yeah.
And in 2007, we didn't have that. Like we had flyers, and we had the post office sending us, notarized letters like, stop putting freaking flyers on other people's property, please. And that's just, that was the hustle. The hardest part that I noticed with a lot of instructors who came in, and personal trainers also who came in to the practice before technology really started gearing up, is that we lost communication with those same specialists. A lot of them couldn't keep up with technology, so they're not able to reach a broad audience, or they kind of stopped in their tracks, or their clientele sort of stifled because they couldn't continue to reformat themselves. So I think uh, in the process of us moving forward, there's a big miscommunication with the older generation who knows a great deal and who I still love to talk to and I love to, you know, get cues from. Um, but then we've stopped learning how to be so personable
Yeah.
with clients. And one thing I love about Gray is you're so personable. And even in your age demographic, which is so uncommon, these days, for anybody under the age of 30 to be a personable person, you still manage to see people's depth. And, that's something that was so prominent and so regular in the fitness industry, 10 to 15 years ago, because it had to be. We didn't have a way to send a gigabyte to, I mean, we couldn't send our videos, via Bluetooth or whatever. So there's a big disconnect. There's also in into the pockets when we talk about, um, more major brands, and also um, African American personal trainers and specialists out here. There's been a huge disconnect. Me growing up in Columbus, South Carolina, I grew up in the Black fitness culture, and I also grew up in the white fitness culture. And I deem it that because they were almost seen as two pockets. There was a whole community of personal trainers that had no idea of some of the gyms that I mentioned on Forest Drive, or
Yeah.
in the Shandon area. Like, but and vice versa, there were people that I trained at small boutique high end gyms, that had no idea that there was a class called Brick, that people, essentially use this as a prop. And so my dream, my hope is that um I can be the bridge or the liaison to sort of marry all of these communities that need to know each other for the sake
Yeah.
um of the growth of the fitness and wellness community as a whole.
Yeah. I love that. Josh, I know you've been in this a lot longer than I have too. Like you guys would probably be about the same. I think you guys are around the same age. So you're probably about the same amount of years of experience. What do you think about that? Like how has it changed in your eyes?
Well, I think he hit it nail on the head, is the
Yeah.
disconnect between the client and the customer, or the client, the coach and the client disconnect is, I mean, we
Yeah.
see it in what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, in what, back early on, like you said, in 2007, I had 5 times more face-to-face conversations with people than I do now. Um, I think the way you can communicate, the way you have social media, the way you can send out content, all of that is done without having to connect as strong to your client as you had to
Mhm.
year, 2007, 2015, 2019 even, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think COVID caused everybody to be just less interactive, and
Mhm.
multiply that by 10 when you go back to 2007, when you had to be way more interactive with your
Mhm.
client and get to know people better and connect with them better. A friend of mine has a communication, or a saying that says, uh, connection trumps communication. And sometimes all you need to do is connect with people, and you can get a lot done, regardless of the content you put out. You could put out the greatest content, you could be the smartest personal trainer in the world. If you can't connect with people, that's wasted energy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with him. The face-to-face interaction out in front of people, um is not as much as what it used to be. So I think you have to work and be more proactive in finding ways to connect with people now
Mhm.
than you did back then, because back then you had to.
Yeah.
You had to have a brick and mortar building that you were meeting with people, facing them one on one with their appointment at 11 o'clock,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you would
Yeah.
interact with that person for an hour. You
Mhm.
do that 3 times an hour, 3 times a week, and
Mhm.
your connection was stronger. I think what we also face is, like you said, the big brands that are involved in fitness. Uh, My Fitness Pal wasn't always owned by Under Armour, right?
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
all the right, you have all, and now they want to charge you to scan your macros, right? So big business, this is big business has come involved in the fitness industry. I don't know if that's for the good or for the worst, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if
Mhm.
that's for the best, or it's for the worst. I think ultimately in this industry, if you have empathy and compassion and you care about people, you'll win. That might sound
Mhm.
naive, but I just think if you genuinely care about the people you interact with and care about people, you will win in this industry, because I've seen a lot of people get in the fitness industry, and it's a horrible comparison, but I compare it to like the tattoo business. Years ago, when tattoos first became legal in South Carolina, the first guy to open up a tattoo shop wasn't even a tattoo artist. He was a retired cop who saw the business of tattooing as a way to make money. So he
Wow.
started all these tattoo shops, hired all these tattoo artists, and boom, in 5 years, he's gone because he didn't have passion for it. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
so many people get involved in the fitness industry, like when CrossFit's opened up and a business guy would start a CrossFit
Yeah.
and he would
Yeah.
fade because he just didn't have passion for it. He didn't have passion for people. He just saw it as a business. It was a money motivator. And I just don't think if you're 100% motivated by money, you win in the fitness game.
I
Yeah.
agree. And to add on to that too, I think, you know, when we saw this influx of fitness influencers on Instagram and, you know, whatever social media, a lot of people start to get into this industry because of how they look.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look good, you know what you're talking about. And that's a problem with the consumer as well. We look at people following and blindly following these people on social media because of how they look. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to remind people all the time, I'm like, just because that guy or girl looks fantastic with little clothes on doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. So I agree with you there. It's like it's obviously a disconnect, but it's also, we don't have the education around what we're consuming. And people that are talking about this stuff don't really know what they're talking about. So then,
Right.
yeah, it comes back into, you really have to have obviously education, but like passion for learning about the human body and weight loss or muscle gain or whatever you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
Yeah.
I know too, and you kind of touched on this before, but I know mental health is such a big part of your story. And I really do want to talk about this stuff because it's going to be a big part of anybody's story. You know, we all deal with mental health in different ways. It's something that I push fairly hard with my clients of, you know, deconstructing yourself so that you can build yourself back better. I know Josh really believes in that too, of just breaking down your old habits and your old mindset so that you can build yourself back better. So I want you to kind of go into a little bit of your mental health story and how your journey and what you do now has changed your life.
Yeah.
I know that's loaded.
No. When I do podcasts, I'm like, you will listen and you're gonna answer the question.
Yes.
But mental health has been a growing conversation in my daily walk. When I was 27, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I found out because I was calling out from work, and I was I was disconnected. Um, and my doctor's office was about a mile from our townhouse, and so it had to have been about 42, 43 degrees that morning. And I had on some flip flops and some shorts and a little shirt, and I walked from my house to the doctor's office, obviously looking a little underdressed. And I look at the nurse practitioner who's at the front desk, and he's seen me many a times. You know, we're always waving at each other. And this particular day, I looked like he described it. I looked as if I just saw something and I was in shock. And I asked him to be seen, and I told him something was wrong. So that was a pretty pretty big ball to get rolling, to start talking about my own mental health. But it was, it was the ball that I needed. It was the immersion therapy that I kind of, needed. And I was given, the utmost care. And a little while later, when I got myself together, and I'd spoken with a psychiatrist and got my diagnosis, I had my phone in my hand, and prior to this, one of my biggest fears about my mental health would be it would become my demise. When I was a teenager, I threatened suicide, and And so mental health has always been a difficult thing for me, without the education. And so when I got on Facebook one day and I put on Facebook, my name is James and I have bipolar disorder. And then I put my phone down and I don't think I looked at the phone for a few hours, and I came back to it and people were just like, oh my God, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And there was so much positive reception around it. It scared me so bad initially to put myself out there, because prior to I don't believe in, I believe in being very candid in terms of my private life. I don't want to, I don't want to be, I don't even know all my business on Facebook or on social media. But this was a conversation that deserved to be talked about and highlighted, and people were very receptive. And since then, I've it's escalated into me being a part of the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And in addition, I do a lot of community work with City of Columbia on mental health. I've worked with the mayor for a couple of years on mental health campaigns, and so it's been a beautiful journey that I'm eager to continue with. And through learning about my own mental health, I've been able to sit in other rooms and teach people about how my experiences synonymize with so many others in the Black, Indigenous, or people of color community, and how it resonates with what so many people are going through currently.
Yeah.
James,
That's
I tell you, the first thing I think of is how was life up to 27 years old until you got a diagnosis?
Oh
You know what
man.
I'm saying, James? Like, I'm talking, like, when you said, like, at 27 I got diagnosed with I go, what was the age 0 to 27 like until somebody sat you down and said, hey James, you have bipolar disorder, and this is why you go through what you go through, this is what it means, this is what it is. I mean, how do you manage that up to 27 years, up to 27, and manage that and not be completely, I guess, on a
Hey
roller coaster?
West.
Like, I don't even know how to explain. Like, when you got to 27 and somebody said, hey, by the way, you have bipolar disorder, here's how we're going to manage and treat it. And oh, by the way, life's going to be different starting tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I couldn't imagine making it at 27 and being like, oh, well, that makes sense when I was 12. And that makes sense when I was 15. And that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense when I was 20. And that makes sense when I was 25. No wonder, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like trying to put on shoes that don't fit your whole life and nobody gave you a pair of
Yeah.
shoes that fit,
Yeah.
right? You're a size
Yeah.
12 shoe and everybody's giving you a size 9, telling you that size 9 is supposed to fit. And you're out there screaming, going, it don't fit. Look at it. It's on
It
my foot.
doesn't
It don't
fit.
fit. The shoe don't
Yeah.
fit. And
Yeah.
at 27 years old, somebody handed you a size 12 shoe and you put it on and went, oh, my feet don't hurt no more.
Right. Right. And then being nervous about why it's so comfortable, because now there's a fear that if it feels too good, or if I'm on a, there was actually a fear component of getting better, because you get used to the chaos.
Mm.
You get
Mm-hmm.
used to the spiraling, and you get used to the constant up and downs.
Mm.
It becomes normal. Having a parent
Mm.
who has bipolar disorder, you see, it feels normal. The chaos feels completely normal. And so when I started treatment, the hardest part for me was creating a new normal around being my own safe space. And that was a new journey. Um, it was a new journey because even though I was 27 and I had been essentially living with something my entire life that I didn't know of, I was still fresh and new to where this new normal. And it took a great deal of time. It took a lot of effort, and it took a lot of inner work. It took a lot of therapy. It took medication, but the fear for a lot of people who live with mental illness. There's an underlying fear of getting better and staying better because our our factory reset button is always going to make us feel like where we need to go to is there.
That's interesting. Do you feel like, how do I even phrase this? Um, with your diagnosis, I mean, obviously I feel like you probably felt like there was some kind of obviously like answer, and you felt like you were a little bit more seen inside of this stuff. Do you feel like with your mental health, I don't even know what I'm trying to ask. I feel like Josh did earlier with my head's kind of exploding on how you feel of just being diagnosed with something. And I think I'm sure BPD was such a new diagnosis when you were 27 years old. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I just can't imagine going through life for so long
Mm-hmm.
of just being like Josh said, okay, there's all of these different signs pointing to why I reacted a certain way or why I felt a certain way. And I'm sure that you then, with your family member who has BPD, you're then like, well, that's why that was that way too. Do you feel like though with that diagnosis and I guess living in chaos and stuff, do you feel like that is why you do so much now, is because you thrive more when there's a lot on your schedule? Or do you think when you put a lot on your schedule, it really helps with
Order.
order? Yeah,
It's
I guess
order.
that's kind of a
You're moving,
wraparound way.
you're moving
Yeah.
from chaos to order.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, the idea was, staying busy is how, I stay on the happy end of bipolar disorder.
Right.
Until staying busy burns you out, and then
Right.
you're reclusive. You don't want to be around anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you recognize that spiral, that cyclical trend,
Yes.
that was what woke me up. And I think it took 2020's pandemic to really sit me down, and because it was the first
To
time
force you.
it was the first time I had ever been forced. Like, there was nowhere to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to be.
Yeah, yeah.
I think at one point we couldn't even be driving. Like, we weren't
Yeah.
supposed to be on the road,
Yeah.
and so that year really put in perspective, um, that I didn't need to be so busy, and I also didn't need to feel validated through my work.
Mm.
And I was way more than my title. It 2020 allowed me to separate myself from James Patrick, the fitness guru. And
Yes.
Mm.
it just allowed me to, and what I realized was that James was burned out, and that um, James needed to pull back in order to be able to give more. And
Yeah.
so where I'm at now is a super happy place overall. I mean, being able to wake up, make my job, my clients, and then work on my business without feeling overwhelmed or overburdened or, oh my God, there's so much going on. I feel in control, and having autonomy over that is such a freeing feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we've had that conversation a lot of times before. And I was only like a year and a half, 2 years into the industry when the pandemic hit, but I felt the same thing where I just was constantly, I was up in the morning at 4 a.m. and I was at the gym training clients until like between 6 and 8 p.m. at night. Like, it was a full day, 3 to 5 days a week. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of sad that it took something like that pandemic for people to turn around and be like, oh my God, I'm so burnt out and I didn't even realize it, and that sucks. But I'm also thankful in the long run that 2020 was when I learned how to sleep. I learned how to set boundaries. I learned what my life would look like. I know you've stepped into more of a role of less fitness training and more recovery work. So I definitely want to dive into recovery work a little bit too, because
I want to say
I'm about
this.
this.
There's
Go
a
for
lot.
it.
there's a lot of people, and all I've ever known is the fitness industry. So anytime I talk to somebody, I talk to people from an angle of the fitness industry because that's all I know, right? Right. I don't know any real jobs, I guess you want to call them. But and I'm sure this is like this in every business. There's a lot of people in the fitness industry who lean their identity 100% on who they are as a fitness person.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and they don't think about who they would be with that when that's gone. Whether they put their identity on their physical appearance and how they look, or they
Mhm.
put their identity on the validation that people give them because they're good at their job. It
Mhm.
is no different than when a professional athlete retires and they don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such an interesting
It
point.
is no different than when, I have a friend of mine who literally both his kids are about to graduate high school soon, and he hit me up and he's like, I don't even know what my marriage is like without kids. I'm like, we got to figure
Wow.
that out. You got 2 years, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what my relationship is like without kids because all we've had is kids for the last 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's this person I married? Right.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people in the fitness industry whose 100% of their identity is who they are in that industry, how people see them, how they
Mhm.
look, what
Mhm.
they are. And people need to understand that is fleeting and that is leaving fast,
Mhm.
very
That's such
fast,
an interesting
very
point.
fast.
No, and
Mhm.
I really never thought of life that way. And I
Mhm.
think maybe that is why, like, the three of us, maybe we used to experience burnout, but we don't as much because we formed an opinion of ourselves and a view of ourselves outside of what we do.
Yeah, but it's
And
not easy.
I remind,
I
it's
guarantee
not easy.
James, I guarantee you still
No.
struggle because
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah.
you get affirmed for people come up to me and be like, James, remember those 250 people in that class? That feels good,
Yeah.
James. That feels good
Yeah.
to you. And it's okay for that to
Stroke
feel
that
good to you.
ego.
Yeah.
Stroke that ego. Yeah.
That's okay for you to be like, did something. I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I'm a mover. I'm a
Uh-huh.
shaker. I'm doing things.
Mhm.
But man, when your whole identity is in it, man, if someone took that away from me, who would we be? But no, that is hard. I think anybody who's in the fitness industry listening to this, and maybe you're young starting out, man, you better not build your whole identity and your whole confidence and your whole sense of who you are on top of that fitness pedestal
Yeah.
because it's fleeting. And
And I,
the way you look is fleeting.
yeah.
There's somebody coming
Every day.
along
Yeah.
every day.
I
Right.
try to, I talk to myself about this a lot, but I remind anybody who's starting out, people that are coming to me like, hey, I want to be an instructor or whatever, or even just clients. I'm like, my job is my hobby and my hobby is my job.
Mhm.
So it is it's so easy to experience burnout when the hobby that you love so much, which is working out, exercise, eating well, is also something that you're trying to teach other people how to do. Because then
Yeah.
your whole life is literally exercise, eating well, fitness. Like my whole entire life is wrapped up in what I do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you are listening to this and you're thinking about starting this career, you're in this career and you're feeling that sense of burnout, you have got to find other things that light your fire
Yeah.
besides just fitness and all
Yeah.
of those things that go in with health, because
Yeah.
it'll be a lot more enjoyable if you have other outlets of
Do you think
energy.
that's what led you? Because I didn't know you've been a massage therapist since 2008. You got licensed in 2008.
Yeah.
Long ass time.
Yeah. And I was like, oh Lord. Okay. So do you think that's what got you into the massage and the recovery work is
There is my segue. Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
wanted something else? You're like, I need something else because it's still related to health and fitness. There's still a
Absolutely.
connection to health and fitness.
Energy's
Yeah.
lower though.
Did
Energy's
that
different.
is that what drove you into because when you guys were talking before we went live, I was hearing you say you're almost predominantly massage and recovery work right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So once I got so again the pandemic, the penny really gave us experience. And the lifelong epiphany I got from it was, again, you're not your tax bracket. You're not, I had a gym for 4 years.
Mhm.
You know, we were, we were streaming 10K a month in sales I mean, and
You were
I
grinding.
I was that was me.
Yeah.
And, and that's all I thought that I was. And the eye-opening experience in 2020 allowed me to remember all of who I was and also reintroduce myself. And what I realized was, even though I had a license under my belt, um, my my heart wasn't in it. And so when I started to pour my heart into it, um, massage and recovery work just manifested itself into something that I wanted to tackle all day long. I wanted to be of service to people without continuing to burn myself out from what I had been doing for so long. I've always been a personal trainer. I've always taught group fitness. I've always been a choreographer. And so with massage and recovery work, I was able to channel my best self in a way that didn't allow me to just constantly feel like I was just turning that wheel. And so where I am now is I'm full-time massage therapy and recovery. And so I was so proud of myself because last year I told myself that in April it would be my last month. I said that last year and I was like, all right, we're here. Cut it. And I mean, I spent a year and a half trading in 27 personal training clients for where I'm at now. So it's been a long road, but I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Very important in this industry to be able to reinvent yourself as your passions start to ebb and flow. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very important here to be able to
Yeah.
do that. I feel if we want to stay onto the massage recovery from a performance standpoint, I do think most people don't work hard enough, like in fitness industry, but I think there's a percentage of people who are high achievers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people who you have to tell to stop more than go, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing they neglect is body work and recovery. And I'm talking from personal experience
Mm-hmm.
because I am a pedal to the metal, nervous system always on red,
Mm-hmm.
100%. I am a engine that's burning maximum amount of gasoline,
Yes.
redlining life 24/7,
Yeah.
where like I'm sitting here talking and I'm gripping my fingers and I realize I'm gripping like, dude, I probably hold my phone harder than anybody else in the world when I talk. Bro, I grip that son of a bitch like a, right. And
You
so
better not fall.
I burn it, bro. Right. And that's just my personality is right. And the first thing I neglect is anything that suppresses my nervous system, right? Anything that gets me out of like a strong vagal tone, I immediately I am horrible at paying attention to it. I think there's a lot of people like that. And the first
Definitely.
thing they need to do is body work, massage therapy, just to take their nervous system and their vagal tone down and relax
Down.
and like uncurl your toes, bro. Right? Like
Unclench your
Relax your
butt
butt cheeks.
cheeks.
relax your
Yes.
butt
Your butt
cheeks.
cheeks.
Relax your butt cheeks, right?
No,
Right.
Let it
it's
go.
true. It's so true though. And like
Man.
I will say from personal experience as well, like I lived your life, Josh. I was the same way, especially coming out of college. Like I was 22, 23 when I started this. I was like on top of the world, training 6 days a week, 7 days a week, didn't matter. I was running all the time. Like I never took breaks. And when I finally got to a point where it's like my body hurts all the time, I feel like I'm not recovering. And I went to James's table. I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to not think about something for an hour. This is what it feels like to like actually relax and let my body just catch up with where it needs to. And so I
Mhm.
know I need to come see you. I'm long overdue, but that was something that pushed me to like take downtime because
Yeah.
your body likes it. And when I saw the benefits of going back into the weight room after, taking one day off and going into
Mhm.
massage therapy, the benefits I had of just like honestly better sleep, mental clarity, my body felt better moving. I didn't feel like I was
Mhm.
always so sore or so worn
Mhm.
out. Like
Yeah.
that's what sells me. And I just we talk about all the time, weightlifting only, it doesn't only teach you to lift weights, it teaches you all these other things. But massage
Yes.
therapy for me was the same way, where I was like, it didn't only teach me, what relaxed muscles felt like, but it taught me what good sleep felt like and taking care of myself and
Mhm.
self-care and just putting energy into myself like I do to all of these other people every single day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Every
talk
day.
about that, James. Talk from your experience as now a full-time massage therapist. It probably feels good to have somebody say that to you, right? Like
Hmm.
full-time massage therapist, right? Right. Probably like lifts the shoulders, like relaxes you,
Yes.
right? Um, do you see that the majority of people that come and sit on your table or get consistent massage therapy, that is what they're missing in their life, is that self-care, body work, massage therapy, recovery standpoint? And recovery is a big word, right? Recovery means it can be a lot of things, right?
A lot of
But
things. Yeah.
the high achiever, the high performer, are we missing that mostly?
Oh my
What you're
gosh, yeah. Well, there's a huge mind body disconnect that is happening, and I don't know if it's I want to say that it's progressively happening in the fitness community overall, where we are focusing more on the aesthetic appeal and less on longevity. We're focusing on how shiny the car can be, and we're not focusing on what's under the hood.
Mhm,
And when I speak about what's under the hood, I'm talking about everything from our mental health all the way to our gut health,
mhm,
all the way
Mhm.
mhm.
to our recovery overall. We're missing that. How much recovery we really need has been such an undervalued componency, and it does worry me because we don't seem to be getting any better. When we're recovering, we're actually on our phones. There's
Mhm.
no disconnection from the world that allows us to really do the type of body scanning and mind body connection that really needs to be done. So when you're on my table, my end goal is to help you get to a place to where you can sit with yourself without the need for a distraction, without the need for anything else going on. In a you could sit in a coffee shop, on 49th and Lennox, and be able to find your peace and be able to tap into yourself. So it all starts somewhere. I figure, why not let it start on the massage table? And
Mm,
so in an hour, you have done a full body scan. You're following along. Your subconscious is following along with me as every place that I touch, palpate, effleurage, petrissage, you're following along with me, and that is also a really good mind body connection.
mm,
Yeah, totally agree. And some people don't value massage therapy, and so be it. I understand it's not for everybody, but just like you said,
Mhm.
it's the time I know I will lay on the table and I won't be distracted by a single thing. I've been pushing
Yeah.
myself really hard to put my phone down more. It's hard when you work from your phone, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that when I come and see you, I'm literally face down, and I've told you so many times before, I'm like drooling. There's no thoughts going on in
Yes.
my head. I'm like, I've
mhm,
never reached this before. I never feel like this unless I'm getting
Yeah.
body work done,
Yeah.
because even if I'm trying to like sit with my thoughts, I'm like, I'm hungry, or I'm like
Yeah.
thinking about something else, like
yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So there's so much value in that and whatever recovery method that you have. But that is something that you've really taught me, of just being with yourself and taking care of yourself and finding that way of self-care that works for you.
Well, you said
100%.
you said April was the day, right? April was the month, right? Like
Yeah.
you said it a year ago, and now you achieved that goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't see you as a person that's complacent as a human being. I don't think you're one of those guys who go, all right, I'm good, I'm set, I'm in, right? I,
Yeah.
you seem like a guy that's always going to have like, all right, where am I headed? Where's my progress? What am I doing? What am I? Where's my challenge next? What am I reinventing? Like I don't see you don't come across as a coaster.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna
Thank you.
coast, right? You don't come across as a guy that's just like,
No,
oh, just gonna hit cruise control at 60 on the highway for the rest of your life, right?
let me chill. Yeah.
Let me chill. I just don't think your brain works that way, man. Like I think you're probably like, where am I headed? If you had to look at 3 to 5, And you can even segue this into your advice for people in the industry. I've gotten to a place where now I get a lot of people that call me about advice in the industry, and sometimes I roll the dice. I'm like, dude, I just got lucky. I got nothing to tell you, bro.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to help you out. Like, oh, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know what I did. Like, you know how you said at 27 years old, all of a sudden there's 250. There's a sense of naivety there, where one, you didn't know it was hard. Two,
Yeah,
you didn't know you couldn't do it. Nobody ever told you
right.
you couldn't. You just did it, right? And it started, and nobody said, James, you can't do that, it's too hard. James, you'll never get, you just did it because you're naive and young, and you're just like,
Or so,
right,
whatever.
you're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
whatever, right? That's there. Nobody told you you couldn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you headed? Do you even know that? Are you rolling the dice on it? And if somebody came to you and was like, hey, James, uh I want to do what you did, and I don't believe in doing what you did thing. Like, I think everybody's got to find their own little thing, right?
Yeah.
um what would you say to somebody? Where are you headed? And if somebody came down and bought 5 hours of your time and said, James, I'm going to sit down with a cup of coffee, then we're going to go to breakfast, then I'm going to follow you around, I want to go to lunch, and I want to learn what's up, where would you start? Because I think that answer is always different for everybody. And then where are you headed? And you could say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where I'm headed. So I can tell you my goals.
Okay.
Where my goals are public speaking,
Okay.
education, um, and on every platform that I'm currently standing on. Um, and those are really the two most important things to me. Those are where my values lie.
Okay.
So I want to say that I'm headed anywhere that aligns with where my values are.
Great. Yep. Good answer. Very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if it takes, man, it's so, right. Right. Like that seems like the obvious answer to people, but it's not. One,
Mm-hmm.
most people don't know what their values are. No, most people
Mm-hmm.
don't know the solid earth they stand on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why most people can't say no,
Yeah.
because they don't know what side of earth they stand on. They're on quaky ground, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
You develop solid ground, you find out where you're going, and you can say no to things that don't put you in that path. You say
Mm-hmm.
yes to the things that do put you in that path. And that's not a
Mm-hmm.
personal thing. I like that. I'm going to steal the hell out of that answer, to be honest with you. Right. Right. Someone's going to ask me next week, we're like, well, where are you headed? Well, James Patrick said, I got to be headed wherever I'm standing on shaky ground, brother. Hashtag James Patrick for that answer. Right.
Fitness guru.
Yeah. Fitness
Yes.
guru James Patrick, because that's what he said. And I'm coattailing that. If somebody came to you and said, I've watched your career, I've been motivated by you. I'm 22 years old, and they got all that gusto we wish we still had back then. Give them three or four, give a couple things that you would say to that person.
Take your time,
Mhm. Be patient.
write it all down,
Mm. Document the journey.
Yeah.
Mm.
and breathe.
Relax and relax.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm hearing you say, be patient. Got a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
Document the journey
Yeah.
for others, and
Yeah.
enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy it.
Right. You
Yeah.
notice none of that had to do with take this class, go get this certification. Right. Right. That's what I tell
Listen
people in
to
this
this TED
industry.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to this guy speak. Go buy this exercise book. Go buy.
Yeah.
You notice you never said a word about any of that. It was all about the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what people don't get in the fitness industry. We tell a lot of our clients to read Atomic Habits. It's a book that's not about health. And they're like, well, is this going to tell me what my macro should be? No, it's going to tell
No.
you,
No.
it's going to tell you how to change your systems and routine so you can become healthier mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's not about that, right? people miss that in this industry because
Yeah.
everybody comes to me and is like, what should I go to school for? What book should I read?
Mhm.
That is not connection.
No.
It's like exactly where we started this
No.
conversation. It
Yeah,
all
yeah.
comes down to
Connection.
connection with people, a
Connection.
passion, a absolute passion for being in this
Yeah.
industry, or else you will not survive it. You have to
Yeah.
love people and love being in this industry and love the ideas of health.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
truly, you have to educate yourself every step of the way because this industry changes frequently. It
Yeah.
changes all the damn time. So you've got to
Yes.
be able to keep up with that stuff. Like nothing pisses me off more than when somebody goes to a trainer and they're still doing stuff from the 80s. And I'm like, bro, we weren't even alive then. Come on now.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
I'll say this, man. Whatever we can do for your platform, you let us know. And
Thank
I
you,
don't
bro.
I don't even know if that means we have anything to offer. I don't know if we this is
Connection.
what episode is this? What episode is this?
I
Connection.
don't know.
This is episode
5 or 4.
four.
I don't know.
This is episode 4.
No.
I'm not even promised we'll have a 5, right? Like I'm just out here like I'm just out here living, bro. Gray says we got to record one. I shrugged my shoulders and said, let's set it up, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
But
whatever
no.
we can do, and be involved, or a message that we have or whatever, we will be there for it. I think physical health is mental health. I think mental health is physical health. I don't think
Yeah.
they operate
Absolutely.
out. I don't think they operate outside of the other. I have a hard
No.
time finding somebody who's struggling with mental health where physical health doesn't struggle at the same time.
Mhm.
I think people who struggle with their physical health, a lot of that is related to their identity and their mental health as well.
Yeah.
They don't work independent for me. They don't.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people that look healthy physically that are unhealthy mentally.
Mhm.
I think they are greatly connected. I don't know a person that doesn't feel better if they were really struggling mentally and didn't eat a good breakfast and go out for a good walk and get good
Yeah.
sleep, that didn't feel
Yeah.
better the next day. I don't know a
Right.
human
Yeah.
being would say that. So,
Yeah.
Gray, you got anything?
Nothing from me, James. If you want to finish with anything
Where
else
can
you
we
want to
find you?
say,
What are you
where can we
doing? Where
find
you
you?
at? Yeah, give all
Yeah.
that.
Where can you
Yeah.
find me?
Yeah.
Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? No, JamesPatrickWellness.com. You can always click my website and schedule a consultation.
Okay.
I do these 15 virtual consults, which the cool people like to check in, gives them a chance to get yelled at and also, talk about the things that they need to talk about so that they can get through the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can find me on Instagram, JP Fitness Guru, on Insta, and on Facebook, James Patrick.
We'll have
Yeah,
we'll get all these links from you too. So like in our YouTube when we Spotify it, Shopify, Spotify it, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all our posts. We'll have all your links and any place we can find you and people can get to you and get your content. So we'll send all that out and we'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
All
you all
right,
so
bro.
much.
All
I
right.
really
Thank
had a good time
you.
doing it.
All right.
Me too.
With all due respect.